is David Nixon. Played in the NFL. Did you know that, Jerem?
You told me that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I didn't realize
Undrafted
that.
free agent that took the hard route and made it with a few teams. David, welcome to the show, man. What in the world
What's up, David?
is draft weekend like for guys like Kai Nakua and Taysom Hill and Andrew Idy, who are projected late round or undrafted free agent contract guys?
Yeah, what's going on, guys? It's a nerve-wracking time, although for me and for some of these guys, these first few days, you're just kind of like everybody else. You're just watching, seeing where maybe some of the guys you worked out with that you're, where you worked out of state with are landing, and you kind of just relax. But Saturday's the day that it starts to ratchet up a little bit. And, I remember for me, about the fourth round is when I started having teams call and saying, hey, we're taking our next pick. Next round, we got you. You're our guy. Get ready. This is starting the fourth round. The Rams started doing it. The Texans started doing it. And then all of a sudden the pick comes up and they take a DB from some other school. And then they call back, hey, sorry, we had to take him. He's on the board. You're still our guy. Next round. And so this literally went on for like 3 or 4 rounds. And ultimately, come to find out, a lot of teams do that to priority-type free agents because their hope is that, the second that draft ends, the ball now goes into the court of the player because he gets to pick where he wants to go. He's a true free agent. And so now what happens are those teams that were calling in the 4th, 5th, 6th round are trying to convince you they really want you. And now it's your option to pick which team you want to go play for. And so they're trying to court you those last few rounds. I think there's probably some truth to it. I think were trying to nab you there in the late rounds. But ultimately, right when that draft ends, it is a crazy, chaotic moment because you have to pick a team. Teams start filling up those rosters, and so it's not something you can say, hey, let me sleep on it, let me get back to you tomorrow. You can't because they'll literally take your spot and fill it with some other guy that they need. And so it's a crazy moment. You literally have to pick your team within the next hour and let your agent know and, of course, let the teams know and kind of go from there. So it's a crazy moment. But for those guys that are probably going to be drafted in the later rounds, yesterday and today are just kind of a breeze. You're just sitting there watching as a bystander and hoping that hopefully tomorrow your name is called.
So would you rather be drafted late 6th or 7th round or be a free agent, given the information you just told us?
I think everybody you talk to, you'd rather be a free agent. I mean, it's nice to have some validity and have people, reach out and draft you, but your signing bonuses in a 6th and 7th round are $50 grand, maybe $60 grand for a 6th rounder and like $20, $30 grand for a 7th. I mean, that's not a lot of money considering if you can be a free agent and go find the right fit with, maybe some guys that are veterans that are getting older, and you can find a team where you're a younger guy, you can come in and they might cut an older guy because you're cheaper. Then, I mean, that's worth a lot more than $50 grand. I mean, you're going to make $500 grand that season if you hit the roster. So I think it makes much more sense to be able to find the right fit as a free agent rather than getting drafted because, teams cut 6th and 7th round draft picks all the time. It's not like you get drafted, you're guaranteed a spot by any means.
Of this year's group of BYU draft-eligible players, which one will have the most productive NFL career?
Man, it's a tough question because it goes back to what I just said. A lot of it comes down to that fit, right? I mean, Jamal could get drafted 3rd round, 4th round, but if he goes to a team where he's going to be sitting behind an all-pro running back, he doesn't really get to showcase his talents. The next thing you know, he gets washed out of the league. Then you got a guy like an undrafted free agent, like say a Harvey Longy, that goes and he's on the practice squad. He makes his way to the roster, but all of a sudden somebody gets hurt and he gets in, he gets some playing time, he kills it. Kind of like an Austin Collie, right? I mean, it really depends on the team and the situation, and that's the NFL. It's all about catching that break. I mean, you look at a guy like Austin Collie. There are injuries that happen. He's able to step in, and he did what he was supposed to do, and went out there and balled out, and sure enough, he ended up having a nice career in the NFL. And so a lot of it is with situations. So it's hard for me to say, but if I had to pick somebody, I'd probably say Harvey Longy. And the reason I go with him, I think he's a safe bet because we've seen at BYU that they can move him around. I mean, a defense coordinator can put him at DN, rush in. They can move him back to linebacker. He can play in a 3-4. He can play in a 4-3. And so he has a lot more options than a guy like Jamal, who is strictly a running back, and we'll see what happens.
Could Harvey Longy play on special teams? Could he play on special teams as well?
Jamal or Harvey?
Harvey Longy.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. For sure he can play on special teams. Yeah, I mean, you've got defensive ends running down on kickoffs all the time. Shoot, look at look at Ziggy, what he was able to do, and he didn't do that in the NFL, but in college he was running down on special teams, and in the NFL they've got defensive ends doing punt team and everything. So if you're on the defense, you're playing special teams. Even if you're a starter, you're still second or third string in case when those special teams guys go down. I mean, unless you're the absolute top, if you're a J.J. Watt, you're not. But anybody else, even the starters at linebacker, you're still getting reps on special teams because you only shoot 5 to 6 linebackers a game. And if one of those guys go down, you've got to have somebody to plug and play into that punt team or kickoff team. So you've got to be prepared.
David, where do you think Jamal Williams could be headed, or where do you think is a good fit? What round? What do you think is going to shake out with Jamal?
Man, obviously the sooner the better, hopefully. But here's something I found the NFL draft. We saw it yesterday with Chicago trading up to get Trubisky. I mean, you just never know. I mean, there's teams pre-draft that show a ton of interest in you, and ultimately they fan out, or vice versa. Teams kind of keep it quiet because they don't want word getting out that they're interested in you, and all of a sudden they jump up and nab you. And so I'm not sure where he lands. The round-wise, maybe later today, but I think probably most likely tomorrow. But ultimately, you just hope he lands in a great position, because I think he is one of those more underrated guys. And I've seen stuff on Twitter, a lot of national guys recognizing that and saying, hey, this guy is the real deal. Watch out for him. And I think it's true. I think the second he gets a chance in camp, I think he'll be able to showcase his talents. I mean, the guy's a true hard worker, and we've seen that through his whole time at BYU, the way he runs, with the violence that he runs with, and kind of with the chip on his shoulder that he runs with. I mean, I think that type of attitude, you take that to the NFL level, and you'll be pretty successful.
David Nixon with us on BYU Sports Nation, former NFL linebacker, a guy who made it as an undrafted free agent. If you had to pinpoint a round for Jamal Williams and Harvey Longy, and I know that you just went through the crapshoot that it is really once you get to those later rounds, but you have to pinpoint a round for those guys. What do you think it's going to be?
I'd say Jamal here in the 4th round, and then I think Harvey could be. Harvey could be anywhere in there. I mean, I'd say probably both 4th round. I think maybe if anything, Harvey slips to the 5th, just because he kind of traded spots. And he started as running back, moves over to defensive end, moves over to linebacker, back defensive end. I mean, he's kind of all over the board. So I would say maybe Harvey a little later, but who knows? That's the crazy thing, is literally who knows. I remember with the Raiders, we with my rookie year, they drafted a safety out of Ohio, 2nd round, and everybody was like, "Who is this guy? I mean, where did this guy come from? Was it on the board anywhere? Nobody had an idea about this guy." Anyways, named Mike Mitchell, played for the Raiders, now starts for the Steelers, and he's ended up being a great player. And so you got guys that GMs fall in love with, owners fall in love with, and they don't care what the professionals have said, what the Adam Schefters and Mike Mayock say. They just go ahead and draft them, and they trust their evaluations and go from there.
What will it mean to have 2 draft picks for BYU for the first time since the 2009 draft, which is actually the draft you were hoping to get in?
Yeah. It's just big for BYU to continue to get guys in the league, and if you can get them drafted, all the better. I mean, that's a pitch at BYU. You have to be able to get these young kids. Is you come to BYU and you'll get a shot at the NFL, and I think BYU's done that, but getting drafted is even more important. So it's good for a program because you can tout that and you can kind of showcase that. But I'm confident. I'm confident those 2 guys will get drafted. The rounds, who knows? But shoot, I wouldn't. I've got a little bias. I wouldn't be surprised if Taysom somehow slides up in there into a late round pick. I mean, he's had a ton of interest. Obviously everyone knows he flew out to Green Bay. They love him a lot there. There's talks that they might take a quarterback here this 2nd round. The Houston Texans, surprisingly, had come on really, really strong as the last few days, and we saw what they did. They took a quarterback. But there's a lot of teams showing interest, and it'll be interesting to see, which one decides to take a later round pick on him or wait till free agency, and then he gets to pick where he wants to go.
What does Taysom Hill expect out of the weekend?
I think he's anxious. Obviously he wants a shot, and I'm 100% confident he'll get a shot. He'll be in a camp somewhere.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
That will happen. The question is where, and does, like I said, does somebody jump up and take him? And let it be clear, let it be made known that everybody wants him as a quarterback. I know there's a lot of people out there thinking, okay, maybe running back or maybe linebacker. All the teams that have showed interest all consider him a true quarterback. In fact, there's never been talk, or at least what he's told me, of any teams even mentioning running back with him. people worked him out as running back on pro day. I think a lot of that was just to test his character and see if he'd be willing to change positions, which he is. But everybody wants him as a quarterback, and I'm just as interested as anybody, as well as he is, to see what happens. And that's what's so fun about the draft is not only as the players and the people, but families, and then of course friends and fans. It's fun to see your guys, where they go and where they land, and instantly you become a fan of that team. I mean, you got tons of people here in Utah that are fans of the Baltimore Ravens solely because of Dennis Pitt is out there, and it's fun to follow these guys and track them. And like I said, hopefully all land in good spots and get a shot and get an opportunity.
When I look at Taysom Hill and the NFL draft, he is only just slightly less intriguing to me in terms of storylines of the NFL draft. It's Jamal Williams and where he goes. And then I'm thinking, okay, Taysom Hill's the next big story for this. So you won't be shocked if he's drafted? Because I would be, given the age and the injuries in the past, yet his numbers at Pro Day were too good to be overlooked.
Yeah, of course he's got some negatives with his injuries and age, but you got to remember he's a quarterback, and there's a premium on quarterbacks, and that's why I wouldn't be surprised if a team took him in the later rounds. And once again, you're talking about a team that's forfeiting $50,000 to try to bring in a guy that could potentially be a starter for you one day. Not saying that he will be, but could potentially, right? And so it's a pretty minimal risk on that side, on that end for these teams. So. I think it's a shot. I'm telling you, he's had a lot of interest. I mean, after the pro day, the Jaguars stuck around for 2 hours and chatted with him just one-on-one. And so there are a lot of teams showing interest in, I think ultimately, hopefully one of those step up to the plate and draft him. And I think, once again, all bias aside, I think they're getting a great value out of Taysom if they nab him in one of those late rounds or as a free agent. I think he's one of those guys that can come in and, if anything, he can compete with the other quarterbacks that you have on your roster and make them better. And then hopefully, from there, see what happens.
There's absolute bias, not only with family, but with BYU. We all want him to do well for sure. You know what I mean?
100%. 100%. I mean, You look at the kid, and he really did. He gave everything to BYU, including almost every part of his body. And so, of course, you can't do anything but hope the best for him and hope he gets a shot. And then, as a quarterback, I mean, with John Beck is the last, I guess, Max Hall, but Max Hall, John Beck are kind of the last quarterbacks that have really gotten a look from BYU. Am I missing somebody? I think
you're right.
That's
and
right.
Hall was undrafted. Beck, the last drafted quarterback.
Exactly. So it's been a while, and it's of course in the game of football, quarterbacks are those high profile guys, and so it'll be fun to watch the journey of Taysom, and then of course watch the journey of all the other guys. You're rooting for each one of the guys to find a spot, and it'll be fun Saturday when the draft is over to see if there's guys that weren't drafted. It's that quick flurry of everybody. Hey, I sign here, and it's fun to keep track of that and see where guys land.
All right, David, the play clock is up. Fantastic stuff. Just want to ask one final question, and I only want one word. You don't need any explanation, just one word answer right here. True or false, there will be a third BYU player drafted?
True.
Wow.
Whoa!
Okay. All right. I love it.
There's that bias, baby.
Love the optimism.
Somebody will sneak in there. True.
All right. At
There we go.
_Nixon on Twitter. Thanks, David.
Blue goggles are in the mail, baby.
I like it. See you guys.
See ya.